Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I really wanted to talk about the top 5 industries that could be transformed by machines and machine learning in particular. So I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship. I thought it'd be really fun to talk about this. I noticed that lots more people are interested in this topic lately, and there is a lot of things that could be said about machines and machine learning particularly, and I'm kind of using these broadly in the terms of sort of codifying or codifying information and using that information as sort of predicting what the future is going to be. The predictions are necessarily in the short term. There's not very good predictions in the long term. Nothing can predict the long term, but machines generally just predict the short term in terms of where things are going. And they kind of have sort of a loose sort of prediction in terms of how well it's actually predicting in the future. So I thought it'd be really fun just to talk about, what are some 5 industries, what are the top 5 industries that might actually change because of this machines, machine learning, and algorithms. There's a lot that could be said about this. And I wanted to also sort of put a caveat out there that anybody that does predictions are necessarily going to be bad. I have no clue whatsoever in terms of, what's actually going to happen and stuff. But, there's could be some general trends going on. I think that these general trends, I was sort of thinking about what these general trends are when I was writing up these different industries. Where it could actually impact and matter the most in terms of the economy. So the first one is the banking industry, or any particular industry that competes on speed or innovation. There is a revolution that's going on right now within the banking industry. And I'm not talking about just cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or something like that, but the revolution is actually figuring out how trading actually occurs within the banking industry on the stock exchange, for example. And most of the firms now are competing on speed and competing on information, the amount of information that they get, because you can actually build this into the software platforms and you can create larger platforms. There's a limitation of human beings is that we can't do things very, very quickly. Some things we can do very quickly, but a lot of things we can't. And as well as we can't incorporate a large amount of information that is sort of in a confined space. We're really good at sort of doing pattern recognition or doing things like looking around us, incorporating sort of strange and unusual information, incorporating that. But in general, that's not necessarily the case with sort of the stock market, because it's usually just like written text, or it could be some sort of events that are happening around the world. So we are getting better. Machines are getting much better at predicting that kind of stuff. It's going to smooth out the stock markets all the more going forward with this sort of machine learning algorithms. There's probably not going to be nearly as many fluctuations as we used to get, because it's going to be harder to find these arbitrage, what are called arbitrage opportunities within the banking industry or stock markets. As well as, cryptocurrency is making a very big impact. I think in terms of, what is the impact going to be? It's too early to be told in terms of cryptocurrency, but there's definitely something that's really interesting that's going on there. The second thing that I think is really important that a lot of people forget about, and I think this is going to be a really big area in terms of the impact of machines, algorithms, and in general just software, is heavy equipment or any other particular industry that's really, really dangerous. And this has been a long-term trend for probably the last 100, 200 years, is that we're moving away from any sort of machines doing, or any people doing anything that's particularly dangerous. So, operating vehicles, for example, that's definitely in the next few years, that's easy prediction in terms of there's going to be a lot more autonomous cars, as well as large transport trucks or, the large trucks that you see on the roads. Those are definitely going to be all automated. And that particular industry is going to change, as well as anything that is really dangerous, like heavy machinery in a open mine, for example, or working in a coal mine, anything like that. There's going to be a lot more automation that's going on in those particular industries. Military applications, it's going to be a lot of algorithms that are going to be in play. They're already in play, but there's going to be a lot more influence. There's going to be a lot more influence, and it's going to be growing substantially going forward whether that's going to continue on, and for definitely for the next, probably 10, 20, 30 years, it's definitely going to keep growing and become more important in terms of algorithms ruling out the possibility of somebody getting hurt or killed or something like that. There's definitely going to be a lot more applications going on there. And again, these predictions are always bad. But these are just kind of based on long-term trends that have happened over 100, maybe 200 years, right? The third thing is any particular industry that is already adopting machine software algorithms, machine learning type algorithms and things like that. Anywhere where it's already kind of really digitalized in any sort of degree. So software, right, is going to increase the impact. There's going to be a lot more machine learning algorithms that are going on there, as well as anything to do with the internet or just kind of basic infrastructure in that sort of way. Telecommunications, definitely a lot more algorithms being inputted in those particular areas, just simply because it's easier, because people understand that sort of machine learning and algorithms and stuff in those particular industries. So in any other industry where it's just sort of not commonplace, it's going to be hard to sort of implement some of those things, which is great because that's going to increase the growth of those particular algorithms, going to increase the growth of using machine learning. It's going to increase the growth of the actual industry itself because of the prediction that it allows you to do. So it's going to continue on growing, and it's going to make the application of these machine learning all the much more easier in those particular industries. The fourth thing that I'm personally interested in, because I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, is that there is going to be a lot more new kinds of digital organizations and new kinds of sort of ways, in terms of ways that we organize or think about creating new businesses and things like that, that are going to be difficult to forecast at this moment. This is the reason why it's interesting, is we don't quite understand how that might actually change, because there's these new forms of organizations that are starting to emerge at this moment, in terms of like things like Uber, for example, the sharing economy, all sorts of really interesting things that are happening online, that you can incorporate some of these ideas of machine learning and prediction that we couldn't do before. So the role of the manager, for example, is probably going to be a lot more difficult, because you're going to be competing with the machine all the much more. They're going to be making better decisions than managers will be, particularly in kind of little tiny routine decisions. And that's been an ongoing theme probably for the last 100 years, that we're being slowly, not replaced, but slowly augmented. All this sort of routine decisions, the really boring stuff, is going to be augmented by machines, and particularly with these machine learning algorithms, because managers are there to actually do the decisions, but the machine learning algorithms are actually making a lot of these decisions at this moment. So it's going to make the job of managers much more easier, but it's also going to create these really strange organizations that it's going to be difficult to sort of forecast what they're going to be at this moment. So it's really kind of interesting. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in that area. And the fifth thing that I think is really important, particular industry or industry sector, is anything where there is a lot of redundant human interaction, things that are really boring and people don't like to do. And sort of you have to do sort of mundane things like cashiers, for example, going into a grocery store, for example. And we're definitely seeing that now. We're just at the start of this. It's going to become even more going forward in terms of this area opening up, particularly with anything where it's really, really redundant, having sort of interactions with, and it might be slower in some areas than others, right? Like I was just thinking in terms of government, for example, they're generally very slow to adopt new technologies because of the risks that are part of there. But there's going to be things like, it's going to be easier to get your government IDs and things like that, or, getting a driver's license. Definitely those things are going to start becoming much more influenced by algorithms and machines and machine learning and things like that, that are going to start removing some of these tasks. Is going to become really kind of interesting, I think, going forward in terms of reducing all of this redundant human interaction that we have. There is a lot in terms of redundant human interaction. Anytime that you're in a queue or you're in a lineup, anything like that, that is usually some sort of inefficiencies that are happening within that particular space, and machines are going to be able to make predictions on when they should actually have more people, for example, in the store, for example, more cash registers or more people sort of working in the store to help you out. So those lineups are going to be fewer, and there's going to be a lot of sort of redundancies are going to be sorted out. And this is an ongoing trend that's been going on for 50, 60, 70 years at this moment, where we're trying to reduce these redundancies as much as possible, particularly things that are really boring, and particularly where it's just kind of really redundant. We don't necessarily need those things. So these kind of factors, right? So anything that it requires to compete on speed or information, any particular industry that is dangerous and, that we really shouldn't be doing, humans shouldn't be doing, any particular industries that have already adopted algorithms, machine learning, and things like that, as well as organizations. And finally, anything where there's kind of any redundancies in terms of human interaction, where it can be easily replaced by machines. Those are kind of the areas. There's probably going to be a lot more areas, but those are, from what I was thinking, these are the areas that I think can actually, that will be really transformed, and there will be much more things going on within those particular spaces in the future in terms of the impact of algorithms and machine learning. So if you like this video, make sure you do an old thumbs up. Appreciate it. And as well, watch some of the other ones. Thank you so much for following along, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.